Well, Cody, after a long, just dormant time that we've spent talking about football and going and traveling around to Senior Bowls and Shrine Bowls and NFL drafts and combines and pro days and spring football and now fall camp and all the rest of it, we're coming up on week 0 of college football, meaning as of this recording, dude, we can say football is back. Football is back. It feels good, man. We're back at it. Fall camp is officially ending, right? The Texas Longhorns are going to have a mock game on Saturday this week in DKR before they get into true, game week prep next week, where Sark will meet with the media on Monday and they'll get into their game week routines, next week. And in this mock game, it's from what we're hearing from behind the scenes as far as people around the program, they're saying it's going to be less scrimmagey than these other two scrimmages. People have used words like, maybe like not quite like a walkthrough, but more like just more like stuff where, they're going to get into situational stuff like, substitutions, in-game stuff, more kind of crossing T's and dotting I's than going out there and pounding on each other, right? Just for in-game situation stuff. So now at this point, it feels like we can look back at fall camp and talk about the things that we've learned, what we know right now coming into the season, what we think we know. But I do think that I wanted to talk about the guys who's like, now that we know what we do after fall camp, everybody knew that Ant Hill was going to come in and crush, right? Everybody knew Colin Simmons was going to come in and crush. Everybody knew that every throw Arch Manning was going to make was going to be scrutinized, and he's going to be the headline for the whole thing, right? Everybody talked about the defense coming in. Everybody knows the player that Michael Taff is. But I want to talk about the guys who, coming out of fall camp and coming into this week 1 week of practices, the players who we view differently now than we did before we were coming into fall camp, the guys that had been kind of the risers, man, the guys that came into camp and crushed. So I don't know how you want to start it. What do you think we should do?
I want to start out just by thanking our main sponsor, Man-I Institute. Man-I Institute, 1-844-WOW 2020. Upgrade your vision with next level LASIK today. I know Alex has got 2020 vision because I'm going to trust him. I'm going to trust his vision and his eyes in giving us these 5 players that are crushing during Texas Longhorns training camp. But not everybody's got 2020. Some people need to go get that next level LASIK, the first in Texas and the only at Man-I Institute. Sharper vision, smarter results. Not all LASIK is created equal. Call 844-WOW 2020 or visit mani.com today. And like I said, Alex, I trust his eyes. He's got 2020 vision, I think. Maybe 2040. Is that good? 2040 is good, right?
Well, I have perfect vision except for I'm colorblind. So
I don't think that's perfect, and I think that's 2020
with the little hyphen or with a little asterisk next to it, right?
With an asterisk that's probably not a color you can see. But 5 players crushing training camp. What do you got?
All right. Well, again, these are players that I was just surprised. I'm surprised the way I feel about them coming out of fall camp versus the way that I felt about them coming into fall camp. At the top of my list is linebacker Ty-Anthony Smith. It feels like Ty-Anthony Smith's been one of the biggest risers throughout this whole camp period. I mean, even with Sark last week saying he feels like he has 4 starters at linebacker. Of course, he's talking about Ant Hill, Leunga Lafau, Trey Moore, and Ty-Anthony Smith. What people close to the team have continued to tell us is that he's praised so heavily just for his kind of, his sideline to sideline speed, his ability to, be sticky when covering guys. And it's going to be a thing this year that he's going to be on the field for Leunga Lafau on passing downs. They think that he moves better. They like his lateral dynamism better. He played only 86 snaps on defense last season, but he appeared in 9 football games, did Ty-Anthony Smith. He generated production once every 6.88 snaps. I think coming into this season, I would project him to have a snap share similar to what David Benda had last season, which is basically 1/3 of snaps. I think that Ty-Anthony Smith is going to be a rotational guy in there with with Lianga Lafau, whereas Trey Moore, it feels like he has his own role. He has his own packages. He's going to be this outside linebacker, this rover, right? Whereas Smith, he's going to be more situational. It just reminds me a little bit of, if we take up all the extra reps that we're not going to have from David Benda, from Maurice Blackwell, and you take the extra snaps away from Lafau for Ty Anthony, that still leaves a 40 to 45% snap share for a guy like Trey Moore. So I think that's about it. And that was not something that especially with the fact that Moore was going to be moving to linebacker, it wasn't something that I foresaw that Ty Anthony Smith was going to be looking like he'd be this heavily involved.
It's Trey Moore, to your credit, had 440 snaps last year. Like, I don't know if that number goes up or down, but they're his snaps that he had last year. So it's fulfilling those. Whereas you look at Ty Anthony Smith, like you mentioned the two names in front of him, Benda and Mo Blackwell, accounting for nearly 400 just between those two guys. Ty Anthony with just 86 snaps last year. And it feels like Ty Anthony's outside of Lafau and Hill, he's the one dude to fulfill both of those roles. So it's a shocker, maybe a riser, I guess, per se, but not according to Sark. I mean, he said he's one of the four best tacklers on the roster this last week. So it's a big addition, a big plus for this Texas defense. Who's number two?
It's Grayson Littleton, the freshman DB. And look, there's no question he's going to, this is probably the biggest shocker, right?
Has to be, right?
This is a guy who crushed. I mean, he's been starting at the nickel/star corner through, the beginning of camp and just through camp. He's still out there playing with the starters. Now the question,
even with Derek Williams back.
Yeah, but the question is, are they going to roll him out there in Columbus in the college football's week 1 marquee matchup? Are they going to move Jelani McDonald into the star and have those two guys play? Or maybe what if they go to like a 3 safety look? I mean, something like that would be like a true 3 safety look. How would a true freshman quarterback in Julian Sane, that's something that could throw him for a real loop. So I don't know if you're going to put in the freshman then, but with all that said, he looks really good. He looks the part. He doesn't look like he's out of place. And I do think that Littleton, regardless of what happens with Ohio State, I think that the worst case scenario for him is he's going to be like a pseudo starter on defense. I think best case scenario, he'll be a fixture on defense and just be the starting star corner. And so, if that's the range of outcomes, I'd say that that's a guy that definitely came into fall camp and crushed.
All right, I got one guy on defense I'm thinking of, and I wonder which. I think there's multiple you could go here, but did you put another guy on defense on here?
Yeah, I have 2 more on offense and 1 more on defense. So I'll go with the defensive one, and for me, it's Hero Kanu.
Okay.
Do you have somebody else?
No, I was wondering if you were going to go Hero Kanu because it's like we look at that defensive tackle position, and I know we came in with hopes and stuff for like the Brevards and the Watsons of the world. And I felt like Kanu, especially the day we went there, the couple days we went there, like Kanu was the guy that looked like he was in the best shape. And I had no expectations, if I'm being quite honest with everybody, about Hero Kanu coming in and having a role with Shaw, Brevard, and Watson ahead of him.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing. I had Kanu kind of pegged as far as the newcomers, right? And we're leaving Alex January out of this.
Yeah.
As far as the newcomers, I put him in the same bucket that I put Levon Johnson in, right? I'm like, these guys are the two that probably are going to be more developmental. And look, it was based on just the minuscule amount of all 22 that was like, we had every game on all 22 that he played in last year. And it's like a minuscule amount of tape, and there's not much you can tell from it, not much you can take away. But you get glowing remarks from the staff about the guy, what a leader he is, how he's a great practice player. Kenny Baker talks about how he brings a little bit different level of athleticism, but most importantly, he's been getting significant work as a starter in practice. And just to say the fact, to say that, I just figured, I was so sure it was the Cole Brevards, the Travis Shaws, the Murad Watsons that were going to be the ones who were going to be the real frontline guys. Right now, I would not be shocked if he's in the first group. He's like the first defensive tackle up versus Ohio State against his old team. And if you would have told me that before fall camp, I would have been shocked. A couple of other guys who are skill position players who I added to this list, but as long as we're talking about skill position players, you're going to be drafting skill position players in your fantasy drafts this weekend. I know you are. You don't want to be on the clock and panic. I know you might be a bigger college football fan than you are an NFL fan. Cody and I, our fantasy football company is Roster Watch. You can go to rosterwatch.com and download the ultimate draft cheat sheet over there. It's been downloaded millions of times because it's the easiest tool that you can use for your fantasy football draft. All you need to do is follow the 3 simple rules at the top of the sheet of paper. A toddler could literally follow them. My daughter's been using the cheat sheet since she was 4 years old. So you can know nothing about fantasy football and go into your draft and dominate using this sheet. You can also get access to us, ask us questions with your pro membership as far as who to sit, who to start, all the rest of it. It's at rosterwatch.com. It's the ultimate draft cheat sheet, the original 3-step cheat sheet. Over 1 million downloads. 1 million people, could not be wrong. Go to rosterwatch.com and go check it out. All right, let's see here. So my first look, one of them, CJ Baxter. And it's like, the reason this was, I feel like he crushed, is that, Sark came in, he's like, we're gonna have to take it easy on the guy. He's like, we're easing back. And then you go out there, you're like, dude, for the old eyeball test, it tells, like, he doesn't look limited. He doesn't. He doesn't look intimidated. He's not taking it easy. He's just out there, dude. He's running hard behind his pads. Even at the beginning of camp, it's like, apparently it's been the same the whole time. Like, he's making big, solid cuts. He's getting downhill. He's like I said, just like I really noticed, just running behind his pads. He looks like he just hasn't skipped a beat. And the question always was, it's like, all right, well, of course you hold him out for Ohio State, and you give him 3 games off that they're not going to need him for, and bring him back for conference play. But it's like, now, it's like he looks like he's ready to play versus Ohio State. Like, if I was Coach Sark, I would play him. So to me, it's like that's a guy that came in and crushed, dude. He looks like he's good to go.
It doesn't even feel like that's a question. It feels like that's just like a expectation, right, at this current stage, August 21st, that CJ Baxter is going to be out there and probably back to his old self, splitting work with Trey Wisner. I think it's interesting that if I would have asked you this question and we'd have went through these 5 guys a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, it might have been, if there was one running back that shocked you or surprised so far, it might have been a different running back. It might have been a Clark. It might have been in one of these younger guys that just kind of like looked good when we were out there. But over the last 2 weeks, I think that the CJ Baxter thing has taken leaps and bounds forward, which is something that Sark has reiterated. Who's the 5th guy?
All right, finally, we got to get to Khalil Lockett. And Chris Jackson said at the start of fall camp that he was excited to see which one of his kind of stud freshmen was going to elevate himself from the rest of the group in the same way that Ryan Wingo did last season, right? He said that one of these guys is going to elevate himself. He said, I have a good idea who I think it's going to be, but I'm not going to tell you who. And if we're going based on reports, mainly off the last 2 weeks, I think you'd have to think that Khalil Lockett's the one making his move right now. I mean, he's the one that's getting work with the starters. He's out there at the same time at times as Arch Manning and the starters. And you've heard all these great things about him. He was a super freak as a prospect. That junior tape is still something that's just so ridiculous to go watch. Not junior tape, his junior highlights, whatever. But it's they're strong to quite strong. So it's like it's not really that big a surprise. But there's been a lot of talk about Dalen McCutcheon too. But it's like the difference is Dalen McCutcheon plays directly behind DeAndre Moore, and so in like 3 wide receiver sets, there's all kinds of reasons why you don't want DeAndre Moore off the field. It's not just because how good he is, but also because it's like from the neck up, he's like the leader of the wide receiver room. It's like he's probably the toughest guy to be behind right now. Because when you play in the slot, you're going to play a little bit less than the 2 outside guys. And we know that DeAndre Moore can play outside, but whenever you're a slot guy like McCutcheon, you're behind DeAndre Moore. It's hard to get out there with the starters. And a guy like Khalil Lockett, he's the one guy that's done it. And when I think back to the beginning of fall camp, if you'd have asked me, and I think we might have talked about it, if there was one dude who I thought would maybe elevate himself to that kind of level, I would have thought based on what we saw in the spring that it was going to be Jamie French. And dude, here's the thing: he still could, and he might. Like he still, they both could break out. It's like it doesn't need to be a one or the other kind of thing. But I think from the outside looking in, you can't say Lockett's been anything but a super, like a present, like not present, like pleasant surprise. You just, based on the way we currently perceive the way that he's sitting as far as the wide receiver pecking order. So yeah, five guys crushing. Now we'll see. Now's the easy part, Cody. Now they got to go do out and just go play these. I mean, they've got the practices all done. Now they just got these silly games that they have to go play.